The Spider-Man 2 game on the PS2, GameCube and Xbox was an odd case of a movie adaptation game being really good. It was a well-made, fun game, but while staying close to the film, branched off by introducing new subplots and elements not in the film, like finding balloons, so that the game could actually stand independently as a well-made piece of work, and not just feel like a rushed cash-in. There was also a version released on PC. Was this PC port anything like its console brother? No, it wasn't. The console game was developed by Treyarch, who were responsible for all the Spider-Man game adaptations from the films, and porting an earlier Spider-Man game to the Dreamcast. The PC port was handled by a company called Fizz Factor, and this was their second title. Fizz Factor, in turn, were owned by some blokes called Amaze Entertainment, and their specialty are movie games and portable versions of bigger franchises. So of course they weren't going to let a sloppy movie game get by with their endorsement, especially considering their stellar works, such as Aragon, and the PS2 version of Shrek the Third. It was all on Fizz Factor to kickstart this tradition of greatness. So when you boot up the game, you're greeted by an FMV, showcasing things that are far too exciting to be in the game itself, like Dr. Octopus's man-tits, which as far as I'm aware, are exclusive to this game. I'm hardly a Spider-Man buff, however, so I cannot say. The main menu screen should immediately tell you that this game has it all, up to and including Coronas, which is either rings of light from the sun, or telling us we're going to need to resort to a copious amount of alcohol to actually enjoy our time with this game. Both are plausible, because I didn't actually bother to toggle the option and thus cannot tell which. The game actually begins at the point in the film where Doc Ock is showing off his second son, I think. I actually remember less of Spider-Man 2 the movie after playing this. Anyway, it starts going critical, Spider-Man jumps in, Otto gets zapped, and a concerned Spider-Man has a crisis of confidence and fucks off to have a tutorial. This event is never brought up again, by the by, you know, due to how insignificant it was to the plot. Plus, if this was your only look into Spider-Man 2, you would never know why Doc Ock turns evil, because it doesn't really tell us. So, for sake of this game, I'm going to say it's embarrassment, you know, falling over in front of Spidey. As said earlier, we're at the tutorial, so I'm going to do all the important gameplay stuff right now, then we'll go through the rest of the story, and we'll most likely not be satisfied with it. Anyway, the most loved and fondly remembered aspect of the console version of Spider-Man 2, which I'm going to refer to onwards from this point as Lovely Spider-Man 2. I'm not sure what we'll call the PC one yet, give me time on that one. Back on topic, web swinging. In Lovely Spider-Man 2, web swinging was a very much loved mechanic, due to the fact it handled as many imagined Spider-Man swinging actually would. It introduced a system where Spider-Man would use objects above and around him, and the arc of the swing was actually guided by this, making the swinging feel organic. It was also something that, while simplistic in nature, you got progressively better at. You would start out fumbling a bit, before picking it up, and eventually you'll find yourself zipping around the city with little to no trouble. And it also had a host of little tricks to give the mechanic depth, such as using two lines to get a more forward arc, or realising that the boost was still functional while swinging. It was hours of fun. In PC Spider-Man 2 you have pre-programmed web swinging points, making swinging feel more restrictive than even the earlier games. Not to mention the swing arc on every point is predetermined and feels clunky, so it's entirely rigid. All in all, web swinging feels like a poorly implemented grappling hook. So poor in fact that it's not even actually attaching to anything, it's just floating in the air. It effectively castrates the most loved feature of Lovely Spider-Man 2. Next up is wall crawling. It's pretty similar on both versions, in that it's a slow mechanic that's only done when you have to and is otherwise not at all noteworthy. I'll admit to preferring the PC's wall crawling, however, because it's glitchier. I like to imagine this is Spider-Man telling people he's saved that everything is alright. Told through the medium of dance. Also, I can kick the height limit on the free roaming sections, not that it does anything. All in all, it's the best part of the game. Combat in Lovely Spider-Man 2 can be enjoyed. It works in Spider-Man's abilities well, and provides enough of a challenge to be worth doing outside of missions. They've worked Spider-Man's webbing into the combat well, and they've even worked in Spider-Sense as a slow motion mechanic. While it's nothing spectacular, it makes sense considering the fiction. So combat is varied enough to support a good chunk of the game, and for me at least it didn't grow stale very fast. PC Spider-Man 2 on the other hand has a 3-punch combo, a jump kick, a web attack, and that's about it. It's pretty empty and shallow, and all in all combat just feels like a war of attrition, which you'll always naturally win by virtue of having a fuck ton of health, and the enemies will just dispense more of it. On that note, attacking is bound to the left mouse button. That seems sensible, but several other moves are also bound to LMB, including zipping, web shooting, webbing enemies, and web swinging. And all of these are based on context, including your basic attacks. This makes the control incredibly rigid, restrictive, and unnatural, and while it never got me killed due to poor timing, it does feel off. Right mouse button on the other hand jumps. It just jumps. I've known games to give too many functions to one button before, but I've never seen it done with a left mouse button. So PC Spider-Man 2 has set a first at least. Lastly, in place of Spider Sense, we have a generic limit break damage bonus, where we glow and can one-hit kill most enemies. It's nice because it makes the game end sooner. In lovely Spider-Man 2, we had the city of New York as our playground. It's considered a pretty good take on the city and obviously lends itself wonderfully to lovely Spider-Man 2's gameplay. There were many things to find, such as tokens, minigames, and there were random crimes to fight.
Crime doesn't pay.
The free-roaming sections in PC Spider-Man 2 were ultimately pointless. They're placed in the story sporadically, yet only happen about 3 times. And the only thing to do is either annoy civilians...
Why don't you go get a real job?
hunt for hidden items, or play trite minigames for bonus points. And even after having done a commentary on this game, and now having played it myself, I have no clue what these points actually do. In levels they rank you based on score, but the worse this game thinks of me, the better I feel about myself. And I think this is why it kept ranking me excellent, or this one time I got ranked average. Oh, I just realised what I'll call this version of Spider-Man 2. I'll from this point onwards refer to the PC version of Spider-Man 2 as Excellent Spider-Man 2, and that should quell any confusion. Lastly, there are some Quicktime Events. Sometimes they kill you, sometimes they don't. You have plenty of time to do them. And why does this one tell me to jump when the actual event I'm quick-timing to do involves no jumping? They're shit. Let's move on. The gameplay is on the whole bland, bordering on awful. But if the story is good, then I might just forgive it as something that is on the whole worth looking into. The story in this game doesn't do that. We're going to go for every event, and it's going to be awful for both of us. So, much like lovely Spider-Man 2, Excellent Spider-Man 2 follows the plot of Spider-Man 2, in broad strokes. But this one is even broader. The plot is so far removed that it has in fact lost the plot. Some key events of the film are actually there, like Bruce Campbell telling Spider-Man to beat up thugs on a rooftop.
Let's see you pummel them senseless. It'll be cool. And funny.
But it really leaves a lot out. So that tutorial we talked about ages ago, it gets interrupted by a police chase. Spider-Man naturally jumps to the aid of the police, just as the clumsy criminals crash into a car. They get out to face Spider-Man, and are immediately thwarted by a car. There's no button to get these cops with absolutely no AI to arrest them in their trapped state, however, so I jump kick them. Let's just say the AI isn't stellar, but at least cops and criminals are presented somewhat equally in terms of intelligence, so Spider-Man 2 is making a bold message. We go to inspect the van, but it activates the thrusters and heads off to the prison, where a jailbreak is in progress.
The city prison.
We kick some blokes there too. Then we're attacked by Rhino. However, shall we defeat him? There's no need to panic. The game tells us precisely how to beat him. So I follow the recipe, and it works. Then we get to stage 2 of the fight. Yeah, explains it again. I'm starting to feel a little insulted. I wonder if this will happen on every boss fight.
Can't we all just get along?
Rhino buggers off, blows up a petrol station, and is dragged off by Doc Ock, so that he can be recycled later. After looking around briefly in this brief free-roaming section, I notice part of the city has been absorbed into that second sun. After briefly having a heart attack, I just learned that's actually our objective marker. Peter has to visit the bank with Aunt May and... oh god, she's horrifying. Peter is horrifying. They have no emotion in their voices.
Too much time cutting classes.
Of course not.
They have cold, dead eyes.
Sorry, I don't feel well. Will you excuse me?
Of course.
Yeah, Aunt May. Looking at you makes me feel violently ill. Anyway, a group of Doc Ock's hired thugs that the movie omitted turn up to perform a bank robbery, blowing up the unlocked glass doors in the process. I'm guessing that's just to make their intentions clear.
First things first, gotta find Aunt May. They couldn't have taken her far. I'll check behind those teller windows.
So we punch our way through the notably deaf folks, who possess the situational awareness of something rather situationally unaware, save Aunt May,
Police work in this city is not what it once was.
get told thanks by the same voice clip repeatedly, which makes the thanks feel a bit lazy and forced. We unlock some doors, face a new enemy, which is tougher than a normal enemy by virtue of dying slower. We get to the vault where our second showdown awaits, with the Simon Says security system just barely getting in our way. Upon using our Master Locksmith webs to defeat it, we face down Doc Ock for his first exciting battle, which we win by perseverance and extreme acrobatics. And by having the instructions for how to win shown to us, but that's less important. So Doc Ock escapes and takes Aunt May in the process, probably because she's the only hostage capable of running. Poor Aunt May, thinking of all the money she could take for herself. We also get an exciting chase. Web the tires, get thanked by May.
Thank you, Spider-Man. That's twice in one day you've saved me. Maybe I misjudged you. Have you seen my nephew, Peter?
Don't worry, ma'am. I'm sure he's just fine.
And then she goes for a jog. Or flees in terror, one or the other. So with that done, we have some free roaming. I interact with the locals for a few minutes. Then I realise this will be over sooner if I just go do the next story mission. So we're with Mary Jane, her car gets nicked, and...
Wait right here. I'll find a phone and call the police.
Peter Parker, you are one strange boy.
Yeah, calling the police to report a crime. You fucking weirdo, Pete. Once again, we have an intense chase. This time so intense that we can't web the tyres because bugger all sense of consistency. We're being railroaded here. We chase the car into a garage, get taunted by a villain I've never heard of, beat up the exact same thugs that were under op, the moonlighting pricks. There's no unique gimmick or challenge in this level. It's just punching blokes in a confined space that wouldn't be suited to Spider-Man's abilities if this game actually had them. The boss fight has a gimmick though. Dodging. We press the dodge button and his attacks don't hit us because we're dodging. Then the boss runs outside, uttering the worst possible taunt you could throw at a hero like Spider-Man.
You're pretty good indoors. Let's see how you do outside.
Okay, watch this FMV. See how choppy and awful the frame rate is? Not to mention how poor it looks in general. All the FMVs are like this. Granted, this is the worst of them, but only by a small degree. The in-engine stuff isn't good either, but at least it's funny. Well, funnier. Anyway, back to our scheduled boss battle. We dodge hits again, but this time he runs away between punches and drops a letter on our head.
Heads up!
The boss fight is really dragged out and tedious.
Next time I won't be so gentle, Spider.
Its final stage he does throw shit at us and we have to climb, so it changed things up for a minute. But then they go scared and the boss fight ends with more dodging and punching. Another exciting level over. Plus that dodging mechanic is never necessary again. Oh, and MJ was kidnapped, so let's move on. Elsewhere, Otto was broken into a lab, using the same time-tested method of blowing up glass to create an entrance. And as we can see, the police are already on the case, waiting for Spider-Man to do everything. Can't say I'm surprised. We make chase,
Hey, hold the elevator.
fighting through yet another indoor space that doesn't lend itself to Spider-Man's movement abilities that are far more interesting than his fighting, of which we've had to do almost without stop this whole time. The twist here is that Otto has planted bombs. Because he loved the Simon Says security system from the back so much, he even worked a lighter version into his bombs. And we have to do that for all of them. Also, this place is filled with electrified floors and laser beams that damage on contact, so we'd better just run through them because I have a fuck ton of health and absolutely no patience left for this game. Just to mix things up, Otto confronts us directly at some point and leaves all responsibility of taking out Spider-Man on one giant mook. Oh dear fuck, however will I be— oh, he's dead. Moving on. After deactivating bombs, saving scientists, shooting turrets, we fight Rhino yet again, with the exact same tactics, and the game's still telling us exactly what to do. Matter of fact, this is even more simple than last time. Oh well.
This room's too small to dodge Rhino. Maybe if I can make him ram these generators.
Perhaps by dodging him? Then in the next part of the fight, we shoot shit and freeze Rhino to death. Peter takes this in his stride.
Iced rhino. Christmas just comes earlier every year.
Seeing Ock head into a lift, we give chase, and oh boy would you look at this. Welcome to Mysterio's stage, a big floating cityscape. I think what happened here is the developers actually looked at the character model and realised, oh shit, we're playing as Spider-Man. We'd better make a level for him. So this level actually has swinging, climbing and platforming. But as I said earlier, I really dislike the swinging, climbing and platforming. The jumping is rigid and offers little mid-air control, making gauging jumps at shore. The incredibly automated web swinging is just as good as doing nothing for all its entertainment value. And wall crawling? Well, who cares about wall crawling? This is also the longest stage in the game, about 30 minutes in length. While I do like that they made it about finding generators and thus encouraging exploration for at least one stage, navigation through this area is boring. This area also has one unique enemy. They're a hassle to fight through, as they fire homing projectiles at you, and you actually have to stand still to counter-attack. So for the most part I just rush through the stage, trying to score as few points as possible along the way, going through teleporters and hearing stupid dialogue.
It's like some kind of portal. Well, you know what they say, grass is always greener. If there were grass.
There is grass, Peter. It's right under your feet, Peter. There's grass on this side too, Peter. There is grass. I think every line in this game was written by a different person, in a different room, one after the other, with no knowledge of what the previous one wrote, or the one after. And the designers didn't read it. They threw it all out and ad-libbed. When we reach space, we sadly don't asphyxiate. We confront Mysterio directly, and this boss fight is about throwing rocks. So we dodge his meteors, then throw rocks. Really finicky rocks that explode if you throw them even slightly wrong. Then we move on slow-moving rocks. Really slow, giving us time to reflect. It was here I realised that this stage, and the lab stage, and the Puma boss fight actually felt really dragged out, and I was really impressed. How does a game that barely breaks 2 hours in length feel dragged out? It's a testament to just how empty the game actually is, that any part of it can feel like it went on too long, when the entire game is one of the shortest games I have ever played. Anyway, then we finally arrive at the boss battle arena refreshed and filled with vigour. This boss fight actually has an interesting mechanic in dodging missiles and gradually wearing his machine down. It's a shame, however, that it's still handled rather poorly, and luckily all the steps in beating it are once again outright told to us. The only real difficulty comes from the frequency and speed of homing missiles, combined with the fact we have to stand still to retaliate, and we have to stand out in the open to actually land hits. This probably stands out as the one troublesome point in the game. Regardless, it only took me a couple of tries. We beat Mysterio, and we have this brief bit of exposition.
Where's Doc Ock?
You won't catch him, Spider-Man. His plan is already underway, and you were wasting your time with me when you should have been catching the train.
Real cute, Fishbowl. I take it he's at the train station.
Really, Spidey? I don't. Anyway, Spider-Man wakes up and we go to the train station.
There he is.
We get to see some of that Fizz Factor writing wit.
I'm sorry, there's no one allowed on this train. It's out of service.
So are you.
It was just so clever I had to let him pass, and close the door so that he couldn't take it back and leave. It was just too witty. To ramp up the difficulty, they've put in more generic thugs than usual. So this fight is like the other fights, but bigger and shit. Then we catch the train through the act of web swinging. Now remember the scene from the movie, the train top fight? Well, this version's a little different. It features Ock throwing all the shit in New York at Spider-Man. After one salvo of crap, he removes the carriage, killing the occupants. We Quicktime Event escape. Then he throws a salvo of bigger shit at us. Welcome to the Spider-Man Shooting Gallery Spectacular. Or if you just want to ignore that shit, jump between the carriages and wait it out. Look, he's throwing taxis at us. I'll kill every cabbie in New York to stop you, Ock. After this thrilling segment, we arrive at the warehouse.
Maybe handling this a little sneaky-like will save some wear and tear on the Spidey threads.
Spider-Man says we should try to be sneaky, but that'll take longer, so we shouldn't. There's no penalty for just charging the objective. Nothing else matters so long as the enemy door is open. This stage's gimmick,
That Ock full of
electricity and
surprises.
breakable walls. One we've already seen, and another Triton out of place. Plus this room is terrifying. I broke the wall down, and this room had no entrance or exit. So I guess I saved these men, then evaporated them. This is the only truly evil thing I've seen Doc Ock do in this game. It fills me with desire to beat him, I suppose. This level even has something like a puzzle. It isn't one, and the solution is told to us with very little subtlety.
Well,
but it's
what
an
have
admirable
we
effort.
here?
But on the last level, they thought about trying. We face our final foes, 4 big thugs, a truly daunting challenge that I overcome by braving the tide of a slightly longer showdown. We somehow win. We hear MJ yell, go up and confront Ock. He talks to us, the third son is having troubles, so Doc runs away, MJ floats away, then we confront Ock for the final fight, which is once again explained to us, and is easier than the Mysterio boss fight that preceded it. But it involves web swinging, just what I wanted. And it's over all too slowly. Doc Ock once again shows off his throwing objects en masse skills by throwing an unrelenting tide of blue exploding barrels at us. Through the act of changing place though, we can avoid them. I do like the boss fight music, but considering what it's set to, it feels parodic in nature. Or maybe I'm just interpreting it that way. It's probably the only part of the showdown that I enjoy, and it's probably the only piece of music that I can even recall. Anyway, after stunning Ock and then punching him 4 times, he comes back to reality, and talks about the game itself.
Good heavens, my boy. What have I done?
Doctor?
I can still stop this.
Very meta, I enjoyed it. We escape with MJ, watch the black hole develop in silence. Then the game tells us we're excellent and it's over. So that was Excellent Spider-Man 2, a game that had 5 minutes worth of ideas and about half an hour of work to realise them. It's shallow, repetitive, bland, and despite being incredibly short, feels longer than it needs to be. This actually feels like a minigame that would have fit poorly into Lovely Spider-Man 2, or any other Spider-Man game for that matter. Perhaps as a kind of kid mode. Everything in this game feels half-assed. Due to how much of the plot is excised, it just stumbles from one point to the next before just kind of ending. Plus, how do you recycle a boss fight in a 2-hour game? Especially one that achieves nothing. Regardless, that's all there is to the game. If for some strange reason you want more Excellent Spider-Man 2, me and internet bloke and friend Noonem did a commentary on this game over a year ago that will definitely scratch your Excellent Spider-Man 2 itch, that I will link in the description. All of the lovely Spider-Man 2 footage used in this review was recorded by Spazbo4 for longplays.org, and he kindly allowed me to use the footage. I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to play Spider-Man 2, pick up Lovely Spider-Man 2. Excellent Spider-Man 2 is not excellent, it is in fact rather poor. Oh, and I just remembered while rendering this video, and first cancelled the render to add this message in, that while I was editing this video I hit 100 subs. So that's cool, I guess, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and here's to more.
Kid mode. Kid mode.
Kid mode.
Kid mode. Kid mode.
Kid mode.
Kid mode.
Kid mode.
Kid mode!
Kid mode.
Kid mode.